Hi and welcome to this third video about finding your perfect customer and identifying who they are. My name is Rob McNichol and today we're going to talk about demographics. Now I've got my laptop just down here and I will be glancing down to it because, as with all things that I do, I have a set system and a set methodology for how I do it, and I have various charts and I have processes laid out to make sure I don't miss out anything. And I've got my specifics on demographics on the laptop just down there, so I'm going to read them off as we talk and maybe talk about them a little bit, but some of them are very obvious. So first of all, demographics. What are demographics? Well, demographics are the factual elements about your ideal customer. So what I want you to do is have a think about who your ideal customer is, or who your best customers are at the moment, and ask these questions. So number one, what is the ideal age range? Now you might say, well, actually, Rob, it's everyone from buying age from 16 through till 65. And actually, I mean, if we're talking about, where a lot of the money resides, it's actually older than that. So, just kind of using Facebook's demographics, where they kind of go from 18 to 65 plus. But you might say, well, that's actually my range, but is it really? I mean, have a think about your best customers, and think about your top 20% of customers. And actually, what are they? Where most of your revenue is probably coming on. And we're touching on Pareto's law here, the 80-20 principle. We'll talk about that in another video if you don't know about it already. If you do know about it, obviously you can apply that and understand what we're going on about here. If you don't know about it, Google it quickly now because it's amazing. Pareto's law or Pareto's principle. I will put a graphic up on screen here to show you what that is. Anyway, so let's carry on with talking about demographics. So age. Try and hone in on what the exact age is. Secondly, you want to think about gender. And that might be that your product is for both men and women, but you actually might find there is more of a bias towards one gender. And if there is that bias there, then your advertising should be written in more of the kind of language, and you should be speaking to a customer in more of the kind of language that appeals to that gender. Men and women do speak quite differently and do have a very different way generally of communicating. We're far less sophisticated generally. I know that's kind of like a broad sweeping statement, but it's true. If my relationship with my wife is anything to go by anyway, and the way she can communicate versus me. So the way you speak is very important depending on what the gender is, and the same applies to age. You speak very differently to somebody who is in their, say, 18 to 25 as you would to somebody who's, say, 50 to 55. You've got different hopes, different aspirations, different priorities in your life at that point. So the next thing you want to look at is marital status. So is your ideal customer married? Are they single? Are they separated? Again, the language used and how you communicate to them is very different. And on that same note, do they have any children? If so, how many kids do they actually have? And again, this is a way, talking to parents is quite different to talking to non-parents. Things change when you have kids. I've got one daughter, and when she came along, the whole world changed. And I'm sure anyone who's watching this who is a parent can attest to the same thing, that things just change dramatically when you have a kid, and actually your priorities change, and how you then, the communication you receive can improve and change. And actually, I'll give you a good example of this. One of the marketers who I follow, Frank Kern, he has a daughter who has the same name as mine, Ava. And when I saw his first sales video, way back when I was first starting out doing online marketing, he mentioned his daughter Ava. And when I heard her name, and they were actually a similar age, or I think his daughter's a couple of years older than mine, but that was it, I was hooked. Instant connection, instant empathy. And that was a kid thing, going back. I mean, it was obviously happenstance, pure luck that his kid was named the same as mine, but still, it got me, and I've been a loyal follower, a loyal fan, and I think the guy's great ever since. So it's incredibly powerful. The next thing you want to think about is location. Now, this can apply especially well if you are a local-based business, and if you are serving a local area, and identifying which are the best areas that you might actually be looking to market in. So you need to look at the location of them. Also, the occupation. So what do these guys do as a job? And again, you might find there's some real serious patterns here, especially if you're serving the business to business market. There might be some real patterns here of what your ideal customer does as a job. Now, this might not be just what they actually do from a point of view of the vocation, but also their position within the company. So remember, these are all actual, factual, hard, tangible elements that you can get your hands on quite easily and look at from your existing customer base. Next, we want to look at the annual income. So how much do these guys earn, and try and bracket out your best customers. And you might be really surprised by this. You might find that In fact, the more affluent of your customer base spend the less, and actually your ideal sweet spot is somewhere in the middle. And again, the way you communicate to them is different to how you would communicate to people with more money or less money. So you want to identify how much they earn. And then we want to look at their level of education. And again, you might find that the level of education is vastly different between different sectors and different buying levels in your customer base. And then you might want to look at other things that you might think of, other physical things or actual things that you can identify. So maybe number of cars, if that's relevant to you, if you're a car dealership. And so that's just one example. I'm sure there are lots of others, but I can't think of any right off the bat right now. So now you'll have a picture from a demographic point of view of what your ideal customer looks like. And this is just demographically the actual hard facts. And you should have all this written down on a piece of paper. And then you're ready to move on to the next level, which is the psychographics. So what really makes them tick under the hood. So not the facts about them, but the actual deep psychological things. So things that are actually factually true to them, the things that define them more than these hard other elements. So let's move in to talking about psychographics in the next video.